You're fine. Yeah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I just want to welcome everybody who's here today, inshallah, for today's session. And especially I want to welcome somebody who I consider to be a very dear friend. And and I have taken great benefit from over the years. And I think I've seen sort of his journey happen and so many great things that he's done, alhamdulillah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow him to continue doing great things. Dr. Shoiab Malik is here with us. He's doing a little tour of the UK. And we actually had a series of lectures where he taught a class on Islam and science, the 12-week session, 12 sessions with various students. And I think everybody really enjoyed that. It was phenomenal, like really mind-opening. A lot of questions that I think people had, a lot of doubts, a lot of contentions. They went in with, they walked out without. And I think that was that's the great project that he's doing. And I think we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to give him success in that. And just by the fact, the book that today's presentation, I assume, is going to be based off, if you just look at the names who've approved it, like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf is there, and many of the great scholars of our tradition living today have approved the work that he's doing, and it's amazing. And another thing that I find amazing is that generally I think, I don't know if this is a factual statement, scientists are quite boring people, and Dr. Shoaib is definitely not a boring person. And that was an incredible rarity, and I really love that as well. But before we start, inshallah, I just wanted to ask one of our teachers, Ustad Zaygam, to recite some Quran before the session begins.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد إنك لا تخلف الميعاد صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khair. Those were verses that it is reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at times when he would wake up in the middle of the night, he would come and look to the skies and the heavens, and he would recite these closing verses of Surah Ali Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about how in the creation of the heavens and the earth there are signs for people of intellect, and carries on. And it's an incredibly beautiful passage that I recommend everybody read. And I think that is the sort of the premise, the driving force of this project about the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the great wisdom and beauty, and try to understand that to the best of our ability. If I give a brief biography of Dr. Shoiab, Dr. Shoiab is a professor of the natural sciences at a university in the UAE. But more importantly for us, he went on a journey in the last, I don't know, what, 5-6 years maybe, where he looked into Islamic philosophy, Islamic theology, Islam, and how it talks about many of the scientific realities a lot of people are struggling with. And he did some incredible work, and he wrote this incredible book on Islam and evolution from the Ghazalian perspective. And that's what he's going to be talking about today. For the Karima students, those of you, Yusuf's coming with like the world's smallest notebook, but generally, it's amazing to see those students who have pen and paper with them. That's a sign that you came to this class prepared to actually learn. And those of you who don't, maybe make sure you have something, making notes on something or a phone or whatever. And any questions you have, inshallah, we're going to have Dr. Shoaib is going to speak for about 45 minutes. After that, it's going to be open Q&A for you guys. Whatever questions you want to ask, you're able to ask. Restricted to the topic initially, and then if anything you want to go off the cuff maybe slightly, I don't think Dr. Shoaib would mind. But inshallah, on that note, inshallah, over to you.
Thank you very much. Oh, no, I don't need this actually. Yeah, sorry. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين رب العالمين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار آمين. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So first and foremost, thank you so much to the Karima Foundation, Malik Asim, for inviting me to this wonderful community. This is the second time that I've been here, home from home. I consider this to be a wonderful place, and I really see a lot of the benefits and a lot of the growth of this institution through the works of Malik Asim and others. You can probably guess from my accent that I am totally British. So just to give you some background about myself, my dad and my mom are Pakistani. And my dad was born and raised in Kuwait, which is like a small country in the Middle East. I was born and raised in Kuwait. Then I came here for my studies in the UK. I did my undergraduate in chemical engineering at the University of Bath. And then I did my PhD in chemical engineering. Alhamdulillah, because of me getting the top marks in my university, I got the funding for the PhD. That's why I didn't do a master's. I went straight to PhD. And then by the end of my PhD, I realized I didn't want to do chemical engineering. I wanted to go into Islamic studies. And I think most of you come from Pakistani backgrounds or Desi backgrounds. If you say to your mom and dad, you want to leave engineering, you've committed suicide. So that was an interesting conversation to have had. But alhamdulillah, since 2015, as Maulana Asim pointed out, I personally really got bored of engineering. Not that engineering is a bad science. If you're an engineer, kudos to you. Or if you have, a passion for engineering, great, go for it. For me, I just felt that there was something more for me, and that's when I started studying with Shuyukh. And for me, it's been just an upward journey since then. As somebody who comes from a science background and somebody who really wants to understand what it means to be a Muslim today, what does it mean to be a Muslim scientist today? How do you, engage questions in Islam and science? That's something I was really interested in. So I sat down with a lot of shuyukh, and at the same time, I started learning about science and religion. So believe it or not, at university, when you go and you can choose your undergraduate or your master's degree, you can choose physics, chemistry, you can actually now study science and religion at universities. There are universities that offer this as a program through which you can attain specialization. So what I did was, while I still am a professor at Zayed University, I did an online MSc, a master's program in science and religion. That kind of opened my eyes. The problem with that program was that it was largely very oriented from a Christian angle. It didn't really give me the Islamic angle. So I felt that a lot of homework was needed. And I looked at all the topics in Islam and science. What were people talking about? What were the big conversations? What was difficult? And evolution undoubtedly is one of those big questions. And so for the past few years, I spent a good amount of time studying with scientists, shuyukh, academics, people from all walks of life, to really understand what their concerns were. And this is how this book came into formulation. And my job here is to simplify this for all of you as best as I can. And inshallah, I hope that you find a lot of benefit from today. Now, I am a teacher, so I am going to be asking you questions. So even if you have not brought notebooks, I will be giving you questions. And for those of you who do answer, you'll get a candy thrown at you. All right, so that's the setup that we're going to have here. Right? Next slide, please. Right, so this is what I'd like to cover today. Just two very easygoing parts. Part one, what exactly is the theory of evolution, right? So when I say evolution, people think of a few things. And what I've noticed is that the scientific understanding of evolution is not the same thing as the general person's understanding of evolution. So it's good to kind of clarify that, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Once we have that penciled in, then we can see how Muslims have responded to this and how we as Muslims, what we can accept and what we cannot accept. That's what I'm going to try and do today. So those are the two parts. I'm going to really simplify a lot of the stuff here because I'm just speaking for 45 minutes. You can then fire questions at me in the next 45 minutes, right? So that's the plan, inshallah. Next slide. I did want to mention a few important points, right? That evolution is a sensitive discussion. I'm aware of that. Just to give you an idea, at my own institution, or one of the institutions that I've worked with, we had a university professor. This is in the Middle East. This is not here, okay? This is in the Middle East. We had a university professor who, when he taught evolution, he was fired and deported, meaning removed from the country in 3 days. So it's a very serious conversation. It hits a lot of sensibilities. And so I am aware that, when a conversation like this is brought up, we have to kind of, treat it with a little bit of careful consideration. And that's what I plan to do, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep at the back of your mind is that evolution does have a lot of misconceptions. There are many misconceptions that are out there. And I hope that you will get some clarifications on why and how people misconceive evolution. Finally, and this is where I think the damage to Muslims comes into the picture. In my experience, when it comes to evolution, people usually see just two options in front of them. You have one group of people who will say, I have accepted evolution, therefore I am going to leave Islam. That is one group of people. And that number is very significant. It's not a small number. And there's another group of people who say, I am a Muslim and I will reject evolution. And I'm trying to show that there are spaces in between here. It's not a clear-cut yes or no kind of thing. And that's part of the idea of having this presentation with you guys here. All right? Bismillah. Let's go ahead. So, what are the concepts of evolution? Don't go anywhere, yeah? Right. Hands up. What is evolution? Who wants to have an attempt? What is evolution? Anyone have it? I'm going to pick on people if no one raises their hand. Sorry, who? Yep, go ahead. It's a theory from Charles Darwin. What's your name? Here you go. Well done. Catch. Good. He's a cricketer. Right. So, right. Okay, what else? What else? So he said correctly it was invented by Charles Darwin. What else? What else do you know about evolution? Yep. Very good. It's how things have changed over time to adapt to their surroundings. Very good. What is your name? MashaAllah. Well done, Yusuf. What else? Yep. Natural selection. Okay, you've thrown a word in there. What does that mean though? Survival of the fittest. Okay, I'll allow that. Well done. What's your name? Huh? Zanar, well done, mashallah. Anyone else? Yes. Is that a turban? Is that a hat? I can't really make out. What is that? But okay, mashallah. All right, go ahead. Good. So we have things that are like coming from other things that are earlier. Yeah? Is that what you're trying to say? Well done. Very good, mashallah. Excellent. Good job. Okay. So we have a rough idea what evolution is. And believe you me, you can actually do a whole PhD on evolution. I mean, it will take ages. But the way I explain evolution is as follows. If you understand these three principles, you have understood evolution. Okay? If you understand these three principles, khalas, then you can start the Islamic conversation of what is so problematic about this, right? These are deep time, common ancestry, and the mechanisms. Just out of curiosity, hands up if you have never heard of these things. Hands up if you have never seen anything on the screen. Okay, so all of you have some. Oh, it's two of you? Two of you? All right, it's okay. No one's embarrassing you. Relax, chill. All right, okay. Right. So go to the next slide, please. So let's start off with the first principle. Let's start off with the first principle, deep time. What exactly is deep time? Right. Usually what we see in history, so when you go back a couple of 100 years, people believed that the earth was quite young. Anyone know how young? How young was the earth, according to how people believed in the past? Any idea? Sometimes you will even see this in very old Quran translations. People believe the earth was only around a couple of thousand years old. Anyone know? Yep. Sorry? 6,000. Very good. What's your name? Very good, mashallah. Here you go. That's a bad throw from me. Mashallah. Well done. Right. So, yeah, that's right. About 6,000 years old. That's how young we thought the earth was. With developments in modern science, we have now come to believe the earth is significantly much, much, much older than that. Much, much older. It is now 4.6 billion years old. 4.6. Now, when I throw that number out there, I remember when I came across it, I'm like, what on earth is 4.6? I don't even know what 200 years looks like, let alone 4.6. So just to give you an idea, I've come up with a table that hopefully will give you some estimation. So there's 3 columns you see in front of you. On the very left are like the estimations that we have. So 14 billion years old is how old we think the universe is. Everything we see in the universe is around 14 billion years old. So you know the Big Bang? That occurred 14 billion years ago, thereabouts. Following that, we have the Earth that was made about 4.6 billion years ago. So that's what it's showing you there. And if you look very carefully, where does it say earliest humans appear? How many years ago? What does it say according to the first column? Yeah, where are you going? What are you doing? So I'm Punjabi. Okay, so this is my Punjabiness will come out. Yeah. So when were the first humans arriving on the scene? Who can tell me? Yes. 2000. We have mathematical comprehension problems here, bro. So what is? MashaAllah, well done, very good. Okay, good luck with your SATs. So right, so 200,000 years ago, that's when the first human beings appeared. When did the Prophet ﷺ appear? Taqriban, around. No, not you. That's somebody from the girls say yes. MashaAllah, very good. So I'm going to try this. I'm sorry. So, right, okay. So about 1,400 years ago, taqriban, right? Now, those numbers may seem very large. So how can we make them a little bit more tangible? That's where the second column comes in. So what I've done here is, you see those numbers on the left, on the first row? Imagine if you treated those numbers as seconds. What would they translate as? So if you treated 14 billion as seconds, it would estimate to around 450 years, 444 years. That's how old the universe is. Everyone following me so far? If you converted 200,000 into seconds, you would get about 2.3 days, right? If you estimated when the Prophet ﷺ came on earth, right, when he was given prophethood, that's about 20 minutes ago. So imagine if the universe was created 450 years ago, the Prophet ﷺ only appeared 20 minutes ago. Everyone getting now the kind of stretch of imagination you need? Time is big. It's vast. This earth has been here for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. So is everyone clear about deep time? Everyone okay with that? Yes, Chaudhry? You okay? You look confused. Okay. Right, good. Right. So we've got deep time done. Next slide. Right. So the next thing we have to go over is something called common ancestry. Right? Common ancestry. So I'm going to ask everyone here a simple yes-no question. All you have to say is yes or no. Do you have parents? Yes. Did they have parents? Yes. This guy thinks he's Isa alayhi salam. He has no parents. So what did he say? Who said no? So, right. So did your parents have parents? Yes, right? And they have parents, and they had parents, etc. If we want to trace all this back, we get something called a family tree, right? That's what we have. We have a family tree. And we see, if you think pictures are not haram, you will see this as decorations in our houses sometimes, right? We can see who's our parents, who's their parents, and on and on and on. Evolution takes that exact same concept, but extends it to all life possible, right? Every single life. So human beings are just the offspring of a previous species, and on and on and on until you get a tree of life that goes through the entire history of the earth. Does that make sense? Yep, everyone okay with that? Now, just want to make one thing clear here. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. When we talk about evolution, people make a general mistake in terms of terminology, word choices. There is a significant difference between origins of life and origins of species, right? I repeat, there's a big difference between origins of life and origins of species. Chaudhry, go to the next slide. Right. So here we have common ancestry. That's the tree of life. Who can tell me where is the origins of life? Where is the origins of life on this diagram? Who can tell me? Who wants to put their family name to the test? Yes, go ahead. Yep. So where would that be on the diagram? Right at the bottom. So you're talking about that little that tip there at the bottom? Is she correct? Yeah, she is correct. Well done. Okay. So very good. Here you go. Sorry. Okay. Right. So it's at the very bottom. Next slide. Right. So that my photo is covering the beautiful diagram. Move the photo, Baba. Yeah. So, astaghfirullah al-azim. What is this? Right. So. Why are you emphasizing my bald spot, bro? Right. So that little tip at the bottom is the origins of life. That's where life started, right? That is a field known as abiogenesis. We have biochemists, people who do biology and chemistry put together. They are experts who try to find out how life started. This is not evolution. Evolution doesn't talk about that. Evolution is talking about everything after that. Next slide, please. So everything there, when we see different species come out, dogs, cats, dinosaurs, whatever, that is evolution. It talks about species, how species come into existence. So when we talk about evolution, do not confuse origins of life for origins of species. Origins of life is called abiogenesis. Origins of species is what we study in evolution. That's why Charles Darwin, the name of his book was Origins of Species, not Origins of Life. Okay? Right. So is everyone okay with that? All good? Thumbs up? Good. Very good. Right. Next slide, please. So now, wait, what happened here? This is totally off. Something has gone wrong. Okay. I know there's a mistake here. So you have the wrong slides. This is what's happened here. So there's been a random mutation. So, all right, okay. So I want you to ignore the slides for now. Just pay attention on me, okay? Now, so there are two mechanisms at play, okay? There are two key mechanisms in evolution. Don't look at the diagram. Chill. Look at me, right? So there are two main mechanisms. The first one, as rightly put by the sister here, is natural selection. The second one is called random mutations. What are they? What do they mean? Right. Okay. So let's first start off with random mutations, right? So this body that you see here, right? It's made out of what? What is it made out of? Sorry? An egg? Clay. No, okay. So scientifically, let's just subhanallah, very good. Okay. Yeah. Sorry? Atoms. Okay. Think a little bit higher. So when a doctor wants to see where the problem in your body is, what does he try to test for? What does he look for? Your organs. Very good. You have your organs. Organs are made out of what? Tissue. They're made out of cells. Cells have what inside them that kind of code everything inside you? Huh? Mitochondria, mashallah. So I'm talking DNA. We're talking about DNA. Well done. You get an extra sweet. Well done. Very good. Okay. So we have DNA. Now, this DNA, right, is responsible completely or partly for giving you what you look like today. I have DNA that gives me, the best muscles you've ever seen to date, right? I have DNA that, mashallah, gives me 6 feet height, right? I mean, look at this height. This is unbelievable, right? So I have DNA that gives me black hair, that gives me a particular nose. That's encoded in your DNA, right? Those things are encoded in your DNA. Now, what happens is when parents get together, right, and when they have kids, some of the DNA from the mother mixes with some of the DNA from the father. And when that happens, there are mutations going on in that process, which is why the same parents sometimes will have kids with very different looks. Sometimes the kid will have the hair of the mother. Sometimes the kid will have the hair of the father. Sometimes a kind of a mix of the two. It happens, right? These things happen. And mutations occur. Now, these mutations occur at the genetic level in your DNA. So that when there are switches happening, when things are just shifting around, it's because of just how things work in the reproductive process, right? That's what random mutations mean. That's what it means. At least for our purposes, that's what it means. Everyone okay with that? A thumbs up? All round thumbs up? All good. Right. Okay. Now, the other thing is called natural selection. Natural selection, as rightly put by the sister here, is something that basically explains how things adapt to their environment, right? Now, let me give you an example. I come from the Middle East. Hot place or cold place? Hot. All right, very good. Very, very hot. Anyone guess what the temperature in Dubai is right now? You know the temperature in Dubai? Did you go on Sheikh Google right now? What did you do? What's your guess? 39. Oh, you're lucky if it's 39. Oh, anyone else take a guess? Yep. Very good. Today's 48. You know the highest it's been in Dubai? 59 degrees. You know the traffic lights that you see on the road? That melted one day. That's how hot it gets in the UAE, right? Very, very hot. Now, in the Middle East, let's say I took 100 different species and I plopped them in the UAE, right? If they have really thick fur, very thick fur, are they likely going to survive that? No. Why not? Okay, too much. You're Einstein. Okay, I take that. Yes. Yeah, Topi man. Yeah, you. They'll overheat, and that means they will be cooked. They're dead. Okay, so very nice language. Yeah, okay, yeah. They will die off, right? So what happens is, if animals or species cannot acclimatize, if they cannot adapt to their environment, they will eventually die away. If they can adapt to their environment, so if these animals start shedding their fur, then they're more likely to survive, right? And so basically the landscape that you're in acts like a filter. If you can live to that environment, you'll be able to live on. If you cannot match that environment, you'll die off, right? Now, the same example even works with human beings. Early human beings, they were mostly farm people, hunter-gatherer. What was the skill set that you needed at that time to survive? What did you need? Einstein, I know you know everything. Chill, right? Yes? Sorry? Hunting. Yes, very good. MashaAllah, very good. So in order to do hunting, what did you need? Yes? Huh? You needed strength. Job. Did you say a job? John. Okay, all right. So it's John. Right, okay. So you needed strength. You needed speed. So there was a lot of emphasis on how physically capable you were, right? Today, do you need to lift 100, 200 kilos to be a successful human being? No. What is this? What is the utility, the key thing you need today? Somebody from the sisters. Yes. No. Somebody's not answered. Yes? Rational thinking, your mind. Who are the richest people today? Who can name me? Elon Musk. Who else? Jeff Bezos. Yep. Okay, so these guys, they use their mind, created a product, and revolutionized the world. They're rich. They didn't bench press 200 kilos and made a career out of it, right? Only a few people like Arnold Schwarzenegger did that, and that's it. But otherwise, it's your aql. So things change according to time and place. What is a survival value in one area or time, and it may not be a survival thing in another area and time. Natural selection is just that. Your environment is the filter. If you can live in that environment, you move on. If you cannot, you die off. That's all it means. Right. Let's see who's paying attention. So we have covered the 3 principles of evolution. Who can tell me the first principle? Let's revise. Yes. Deep time. Very good. Deep time. Somebody from the guy's side. What is the second principle? Yes. You. Yeah, you. Yeah, you. Why did you question yourself? Yes. Sorry? Common ancestry. Very good. Shatter. Well done. Right. There were 2 mechanisms. Somebody from the sister side. What was the first mechanism? I know you've already spoken before. Have you spoken before? Okay. If you do, okay, go ahead. What's the first mechanism? Natural selection. Very good. That's one of them. Very good. From the brothers, what is the other? Yes? Sorry? Mutations. So I was pointing to him, so both of you get a sweet. Okay, very good. Random mutations. So if you've understood that, you have understood evolution. Evolution works through natural selection and random mutation. It happens over a period of a very long time, 3.5 billion years. That's how evolution has been occurring for 3.5 billion years. And it results in this tree of life that we see on the diagrams. Does that make sense? Are you okay with that so far? Very good. Okay, now that we have understood evolution, why is it such tricky business for us? Where is the monkey business here? This is where the diagram here comes in, right? The diagram here comes in. This diagram is showing what? Somebody from so from the sister side. What is this diagram trying to show? What is it trying to show? Take a guess, even if you don't know. Yes? Human evolution. Very good. Excellent. Okay, very good. So what's that? Oh yeah. So okay, did you read it or did you? Oh, she didn't read. Okay, khalas. Okay, right. So this is trying to show human evolution. Now, pay attention to the timelines here, guys. Okay. What do we identify as biologically? What is the category given to us? Yes. Yes. MashaAllah. Very good. Okay, I'll give you that. That's a permissible answer. Yes. Homo sapien. When you go to any university, the biological term referred to us is a Homo sapien. That's what me and you are. Okay? Now, some people may call you Neanderthals as a joke, right? Neanderthals is a real category, which you will not find here, but it's a real category, right? It's an earlier precursor to the Homo sapien. According to evolutionary biology, let's see who knows this. Who are our closest cousins, biologically, not from the sister side? You've already said an answer. Somebody who's not said something. Yes. Chimpanzees. Very good. Good. Oh, sorry. That's a dodge. But okay. Right. Sorry. So chimpanzees are our closest evolutionary cousins. Okay. That's what evolution says. Anyone know the similarity in the genes? How genetically similar we are to them? Anyone have an idea? Yep. Go ahead. I'm not asking here. This guy's going this way. So okay. All right. Nope. How much genetic similarity do we have with chimpanzees? Yep. Wow. Okay. So no, not 20%. Yes. Okay. Good. 98%. About 96, 98%. On a genetic level, we are unbelievably close to chimpanzees. Now, that is a very offensive statement. We see that as a very offensive statement, naturally, right? We believe that God created us in a certain way. What on earth does this mean? Now, the reason why I'm pointing these two things out is because there is a common ancestor, meaning that there was a species through which one leg became common-day chimpanzees, another leg became Homo sapiens. Next slide, Jody. Right? So here's what it is. Those are our common ancestors, right? There's about 7 million years ago, there was a species that existed, one that led to us, one that led to chimpanzees. And that's the reason why we have genetic similarity. They are our closest evolutionary cousins, okay? That's where now problems start to come up. Why? Because we believe that, we have certain indications in the Quran in how Adam was created and how humans were created. How is this squaring up? But all I wanted to bring your attention with this slide was to just, make it clear to you that evolution says human beings are no exception. Like human beings do not have a discontinuity with the rest of the biological world. There's a very real connection with us and what exists around us. And that is one of the biggest question marks when it comes to evolution. Everyone following me so far? Yep. All right. Next slide. Okay. One thing to keep in mind. You see the guys in the red dabba? Yeah, in the red box? Those are all called hominins. That will come up importantly later on. Just remember that. Next slide, please. Right. I just wanted to clarify two misconceptions, popular misconceptions, right, about evolution. One is that this was proposed by Charles Darwin, who was an atheist. Hands up if you've heard that before. It's an atheistic theory. We shouldn't believe in it. Hands up if you've ever come across that. Hands up if you've never come across that before. I want to see. Only 1, 2 people. Okay, very good. All right, okay. Now, was Charles Darwin an atheist? Charles Darwin was never an atheist. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, no. That's the misconception. So the opposite is true. Okay, good luck with your SAT again. So, all right. So, Charles Darwin was, in fact, believe it or not, you know how we have trainings to become an imam? Yeah? We go through seminaries, madrasas, right? He was on track to becoming a Christian imam. He was that pious, right? Now, eventually, he did lose faith. Not necessarily because of evolution. People think that once he came and arrived at evolution, it's because he lost faith. No. One of the reasons why he lost faith was because he had an emotional trauma when his youngest daughter died. Her name was Anna. So I studied Charles Darwin like I did the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. I wanted to know, why was this man so contented? Why was he so problematized in the Muslim world? And he never ended up becoming an atheist. He said, I'm unsure now. I'm unsure. How can I square a world in which there's evil and suffering, with which his own daughter died, with God? And remember, his understanding of God was not the Islamic understanding of God. It was the Christian understanding of God, which emphasizes there's goodness in everything. So when you're taught that at a very young age, and at the same time you see incredible suffering, it becomes difficult to navigate that. Right? So there's that human element that we should understand, that these are people. These are people that we're talking about. So there's that one famous misconception there that Charles Darwin is an atheist, therefore this is an atheistic theory, therefore we should have nothing to do with it. Far from the truth. So that's one of the misconceptions clarified. The other one is evolution is unfalsifiable. Have you guys heard of that one before? That evolution is unfalsifiable. It's a dogma. Oh, astaghfirullah. Right? That's not the case. Evolutionary biologists will happily give anyone the Nobel Prize to prove that evolution is incorrect. I'll give you one clear episode where evolution could have been completely wrong in Charles Darwin's own lifetime. Charles Darwin wrote his book 1859, about 160 years ago, just thereabouts, right? And in that work, what he tried to do was he tried to show that evolution is true, and he gave various examples. But he said that the world should be much, much older than the current estimates. Do you know what was the estimation of the age of the earth at that time? 20 million years. That was the estimate of the age of the earth. 20 million years. That was it. In comparison to 14.6 or 4.6 that we see here. Much, much younger. And you know who came up with that estimate? You guys learned centigrade, right? Centigrade in your GCSEs and A levels. You have centigrade. What's the other unit that you remember? Okay, the other one. Kelvin. Who was the inventor of Kelvin? Lord Kelvin. He was a physicist from UK, from your country, if you want to call this your country, right? So, right. He was from UK. He was the leading physicist at the time. He said it's impossible for the earth to be more than 20 million years old. Charles Darwin's theory could have been debunked at that moment. Later, particularly when we came across something called radioactivity, physicists realized, hang on, the earth is way older than we anticipated. That was a clear point in which evolution could have been discarded. Clear point. But independently, the earth turned out to be much older than what we anticipated, proving Darwin right. Right? So those are just one of many instances where there are clear ways of refuting evolution. No one holds it as a dogma. Unfortunately, you will see some literature by people who oppose evolution to say, it's a dogma. Astaghfirullah, right? That's not the case. I have hung out with scientists. I've chilled with them. Yeah, I've just chilled with them, right? Halal-wise, of course. But I've hung out with proper scientists. One of them is at the University of Bath. His name is Lawrence Hurst. He was once the president of the Royal Society of Genetics. So this is a guy who is at the top of his career. I can count and tell you how many times in my sessions with him he said, I don't know. He had epistemic humility. He said, I don't know. Sometimes we don't have an answer for something. And so this is one of the world's leading scientists. They're not as dogmatic as Richard Dawkins are all the time. Richard Dawkins, unfortunately, was one extreme example who got a lot of media attention. And unfortunately, that kind of shaped our image, not just of evolution, but of science entirely. And my job is to try and temper with that a little bit to be a little bit more realistic. Not all scientists are out to get you. They're just doing their job. Right? They're all just doing their job. So I hope that clarifies that. Now we move on to part number 2. Islam and the theory of evolution. Can I stand up and walk a bit? Is that okay with you? Yeah? All right. Okay, so Islam and evolution. Hands up if you believe Islam is totally chilled with evolution. Okay, Einstein here thinks it's totally cool, that we can accept evolution. Right. How about from the sister side? Is Islam cool with evolution? Is it totally chill? You think so? Tell me why. You don't see any problem, between being a Muslim and evolution? No problem whatsoever? Is that your reason why? You feel like it's a middle ground. Okay, right, all right, okay. What about from anyone else want to say something? Do you want to say something? No? All right, okay, right. So when it comes to understanding Islam and evolution, usually we see a variety of responses, a bunch of responses. And it took me a while to kind of understand where the problems were. Why were people finding this such a contentious issue? What we're going to do is, we're going to go over a bunch of positions. There are 4 in total. These 4 positions kind of map out what's out there when you read books and when you read articles, right? And we're going to go, i.e. all of us together, we're going to go on an inquiry to see exactly which of these positions we can accept and which of these positions we cannot accept. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do that together, okay? Next slide, please. All right. So We all believe this is a basic account, right, that we find in the Quran. Let's first put ourselves on safe ground. The Quran says about what? The Quran says about Adam what exactly? In the Quran it says that Adam and Eve were created by God. Yep, everyone okay with that? Adam were created by God. And then the angels, they at one point they prostrated to him, and then he gave them the answers that he knew his stuff. He was then put into the garden. The jinn did waswasa to them. They ate from the tree. They made a mistake. They fell from heaven and they came on earth. Everyone is familiar with this, yeah? This is this basic 101 story of Adam alayhi salam according to the Quran, right? This is what we know from our scripture. Okay, next slide. Right, we believe, right, that very clearly Adam and Eve were real people. We definitely believe that. And there are several verses, like for example in Surah Nisa, the first verse, right? Here we have a very clear indication that we were created min nafsin wahid. We were created from an individual, right? And from that individual was created its wife, right? Its spouse. And all of us trace ourselves back to those two individuals. That's what it says. There is another verse, next slide please. In Surah Imran, we have this one here. I'm assuming you guys can see. Yeah. So here we have an analogy being set up between Isa alayhi salam and Adam alayhi salam, right? That these two are very similar in many regards. But there's one key ingredient that's different. Isa alayhi salam, answer yes or no. Did Isa have a father? No. Did he have a mother? Yes, he did, right? Now, Adam alayhi salam, did he have a father? Did he have a mother? No. He was created directly from dust, which is what this verse is trying to indicate, right? So this is something that we as Muslims believe. Now, I want you to keep it at the back of your mind. Do Muslims believe that Allah does miracles? Yeah. Now, what is a miracle, you may ask? What's a miracle? Does it contradict science, right? So who created the world? God created the world, right? Who created the laws that we study through science? Allah, right? And can He change them if He wanted to? Yeah. If you create something, actually you can change it whenever you wanted to, right? So this is standard Muslim belief. Nothing that I've said here is out of the ordinary. Now I'm going to work with those assumptions and walk you through 4 positions that I've developed in my research. Everyone following me so far? Yeah, all good? All right, let's go to the next slide. What happened here? Wow. Okay, so the formatting went a little bit awkward. Okay, so there are 4 positions that I want you to keep in mind, okay? Creationism, human exceptionalism, Adamic exceptionalism, and no exceptions. How many positions are there? 4. Now, I'm going to explain what these are. Creationism is the position that God created each species independently and miraculously, such that, that tree of life that we saw is false. Creationism believes that the tree of life is entirely false. So if you look at the questions here, are non-humans products of evolution? No. Are humans a product of evolution? No. And is Adam a product of evolution? No. Does that make sense? Are we okay with creationism? Yep, all good, guys? Yep, all right, good. If there are problems, please do ask me in the Q&A. Then I'm going to move on to no exceptions. I don't know literally what happened here. So, right, no exceptions is the position that every single thing we know of had a mother and father, right? So everything was a product of evolution. Everything belongs to common ancestry. According to no exceptions, are dinosaurs part of common ancestry? Yes or no? Yes. Are sheep part of evolution? Yes or no? Are humans product of evolution? Yes or no? Yes, that's what no exception says, right? According to no exceptions, it also believes that Adam and Eve had a mother and father. So these two are opposites. Does that make sense? Creation says that every species, cats, dogs, humans, dinosaurs, all of them were created directly by God without any tree of life. No exception says that everything had a mother and father, and that evolution is 100% true. Okay, everyone got the extremes? Everyone okay with those two? Yeah, because those two are important. Once we understand those two, then we come to the middle 2 positions. Human exceptionalism is the position that evolution is true except for human beings. Why is this a case? Because we believe that the Quran makes it clear that Adam and Eve were created miraculously, and that all of his descendants, were direct lineages from him. And there was nothing that they kind of mixed with in the process, right? So let me give you a visual. Next slide. Can everyone see that? Yeah. You remember the tree of life that we saw? Just make it 90 degrees this way, right? Now, what you're seeing here is, particularly in the second image, remember there was a common ancestor between chimpanzees and Homo sapiens? Remember we saw that earlier? This is what the middle image is showing you. This is what the middle image is showing you. And then the third image is showing you what happened over a period of 2 million years ago. That's what it's showing you. That's it. Very simple. Nothing too complicated. According to human exceptionalism, right? So we had evolution going on. We had a variety of different, human-like entities, Neanderthals, whatever they are, right? But then at one point in time, Adam was created miraculously, and all of us came through that one creation. That's why you see here, there is nothing connecting Adam, humanity, with anything else. Does that make sense? Everyone okay with that? Girls here, you okay? Yep. So that's human exceptionalism. Human exceptionalism states that all humans have never mixed with anything outside of that. All good so far? Yep. Right. Previous slide now. Now the third position requires a little bit of mental preparation, right? This is a position called Adamic exceptionalism. Now, to explain Adamic exceptionalism, let me go over one basic idea. I'll start with the sisters here. Right. Guys, are you, from an Islamic point of view, do you have to believe in dinosaurs? Do you have to believe? Is it fard upon you to believe in dinosaurs? It doesn't say in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, believe in dinosaurs. Right? Does it say that? No. To the guys here, are you required to reject dinosaurs from an Islamic point of view? No. So you are neither required to accept dinosaurs, neither are you required to accept it. Why? The question is why? Now you're silent. Who can tell me why we don't, yeah? No one says, who is our authority? Very good. Excellent. You get 2 candies for that. Well done. Okay. Okay, so, good job. Okay, right. So the Quran neither affirms it, neither does it deny it. So if it neither affirms or denies it, whether you believe it or not is your personal opinion. Can it be an Islamic opinion? No. Islam has nothing to say about it. Does that make sense? Let me ask you the same question. Now this is to everyone here. What do we study in chemistry that's like a table? What is it called? The periodic table, right? As Muslims, do we have to believe in the periodic table? No. As Muslims, do we have to reject the periodic table? No. It is, from our point of view, neutral. Allah is not going to ask in the day of judgment, Beta, did you believe in the periodic table? No, Jahannam. No, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. Right? So make sure you make it very clear to yourself that there are some things which we do not have an Islamic opinion on. Just because the Quran neither says something about it, nor does it deny anything about it. This is the first thing. So, now here's the most important thing. Does the Quran affirm that there was an individual called Adam? Yes, it does. Does the Quran affirm that there was an individual called Eve? Yes. Does the Quran affirm that they were created miraculously? Does the Quran affirm that we all come from those 2 individuals? It does, right? It does. Now, let me ask you some questions here. Does the Quran say anything about when he existed? We have no commitment to when he existed. It doesn't say that. Absolutely no commitment whatsoever. Right? Christians do. There are some Christian circles that do believe that Adam alayhi salam was created around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, but Muslims don't. Second question, if we don't know when he existed, right? We don't know when he existed. Do we know what his biological profile was? Could he be, did he have to be a Homo sapien? Did he have to be a Homo sapien? Could he be anything else? So this is a question. Just keep that at the back of your mind. You don't have to answer. The other question is, since we don't know when he existed, We don't know when he existed, right? He could have been created several thousand years ago, 1,000,000 years ago. We don't know, right? Does the Quran say anything about what existed around him? No. Does the Quran say anything about could there be other human-like entities around Adam alayhi salam? Does the Quran say anything about that? No. Doesn't say anything about that. Does the Quran say anything about these other human beings or human-like entities they could have mixed with Adam's descendants? No. Keeping those ideas in mind, go 2 slides down, please. Right? So go back. This is one slide, Baba. So next slide. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is human exceptionalism. Adamic exceptionalism is the next one. There we go. Adamic exceptionalism states we believe that there were 2 individuals that were created miraculously. No problem. No problem whatsoever. It says that we all come from Adam. We have a lineage that goes back to Adam alayhi salam. No problem. But the Quran neither affirms nor denies what coexisted. There could have been other human-like entities. The Quran neither affirms nor denies that there could have been interbreeding. Right? Now you may be asking, Shoaib, why are you asking us to think about interbreeding? Because this entails that perhaps humans or us, we interbred with Neanderthals or other human-like entities. Is that what you're trying to suggest? Yes, that is what I'm trying to suggest. Now you may be asking, why is that important? Well, believe it or not, according to genetic studies, there are parts of human population that have Neanderthal genes in them. So if you're from Europe, for instance, okay, so I just want to make sure this is not treated offensively. When we say Neanderthal in normal language, it is used as an offensive term. In science, that's not the case. It is referred to a group of entities that are human-like. Okay? There are Europeans who have Neanderthal genes in them, but not in other parts of the human population. Suggesting what? That Neanderthals mixed with some Homo sapiens. There are some parts in Pakistan, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, who have genetic material from a species we call Denisovans, but not in other parts of the world. Not in other parts of the world. And so this says what? That they interbred. So this is a question that is raised by the theory of evolution. Now, putting it all together, Adamic exceptionalism says that could non-human beings come to evolution? Yes. Could there be human or human-like entities? Yes. But it denies that Adam and Eve had a mother and father. It maintains that Adam was a miraculous creation. We don't know when he existed. We don't know at all. 0 clue. Right? We have no clue whatsoever. But there could have been interbreeding of descendants of Adam with other entities. Is everyone clear about all of that? Does that make sense? Yes? Good. So he's asking, where on that diagram? Do you see those 3 circles? Do you see those 3 circles, right? The first circle, starting from the very right, that's very near. That's about 500,000 years ago. The second circle in the middle, that's about 1,000,000 years ago. That's about 1.5 million years ago. All of those are possible because we don't know when he existed. We don't know when. For all we know, all of these, even Neanderthals, could be children of Adam. We don't know. We don't know. For all we know, it's just us, Homo sapiens, that are children of Adam. We just don't know. The Quran does not give us that answer. Does that answer your question, Shoiab? Yep. Everyone okay with that? Yeah? So, yep. Yep. No, because so that belief that Adam was created the same time as the creation of the universe is a Christian belief. That's not a Muslim belief. We have that's why so there's a whole movement in America called Young Earth creationism. Young Earth means they believe in a young Earth, 6,000 to 10,000 years old. They believe the Earth is only 6,000 to 10,000 years old. And at that moment of creation, when the Earth was created, everything else was created. So there's a huge museum. They've spent $20 million. It's called the Ark. It's called the Ark. In that museum, you will see them depicting humans that side by side with dinosaurs, which never happened. Right? So that is a Christian belief. That is not an Islamic belief. Right? Is everyone clear about the 4 positions? So I'm going to say a position, and I want somebody to tell me what position that is. So position number one, this is a test for all of you, right? I'm going to start with the guys here. Position number one, every single thing had a mother and father. Every single thing. Which position is that? Somebody, yes, you. No exceptions. Very good. Excellent. Right. On the sister side, she's ready for candy. Right. So evolution is true except for human beings. Human beings did not go through. Not you, somebody. Did you speak before? You never did. Yes, go ahead. Human exceptions. Very good. Excellent. Right. The third position, right? All of species were created directly and miraculously. Somebody else? Yes, yeah. No. All species were created directly and miraculously. Yes, well done. Very good. Right, excellent. And finally, this position believes, so this is for the sisters now, right? That evolution is true. It could be true for human beings, but not for Adam and Eve. What position is that? Somebody who hasn't spoken before. Another one. Yes. Yep. Adamic exception. Well done. Very good. Excellent. Right. So all those positions be clear. Now go to the next slide, Sheikh. Okay. Very good. So when we have a scientific theory, guys, there are only two questions that you need to ask. Okay. There are two questions, and this applies to any scientific theory. These are the only two things. One, can God do it? Given what we know of God, right? Given what we know of God, could God create us this way? That's the first question. And then the second question is, what did God say in Scripture? Does it collide with anything in there? Those are the two questions. Are we okay with that? Yeah. Can God do it? Is it compatible with Scripture? Now, I want you to think about the first question just in terms of God's power. So let me ask you a question. Could God, if he wanted to, convert me into a monkey right now? Yes, he could, right? It'd be very funny, not for me, but it could be possible. Could God create the world with a different set of laws than we know today? Possible. Could God create the world which has no human beings? It is possible, right? Okay, using that as our way of analyzing, let's go through each one carefully. Okay, so we're just looking at the first question. Can God do it? So start with the sisters. Can God create us through creationism based just on his power? Could he do that? Yes, he could. Next slide. Very good. Where's the ticking? What? Okay, so there should be a tick mark there. He's messing up my slides. Right, so creationism should have a plus arrow. Sorry, go back. What's happening? No, next. Yeah, next. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, okay, yeah. Right, so yes, he could. To the guys here, could God create us through human exceptionism if he wanted to? Yes, he could. Well done, very good. To the sisters, could God create us through Adamic exceptionism? Yes or no? Yes, he could. Guys here, could he create us through no exceptions? Could he create us where there were no exceptions, even Adam and Eve had a father? Could he create us that way? He could, yes. All of those are possible. All of those are possible. Now that's very important. This is a very important conclusion. Why? Who can tell me why? Yes. So if you hear the claim that evolution debunks God's existence, would you believe that person? No. Because anything in science that we discover is God's creation. How could what we understand through science ever debunk God? Does that make sense? Yeah? Next slide. So it's very, very important that we do not confuse science for atheism. That's a very, very important thing. Now you may hear that, hang on, natural selection means naturalism, that God is completely out of the window, right? This is a mistake. Natural selection only means that God is on the thing if you believe in an ideology called naturalism. Naturalism is a worldview which states that nature is all there is. As Muslims, do we believe nature is all there is? Do we believe that there's no creator? That nature just operates by its own? No, we don't. We believe there's always God and he's created this world. So that's the reason why we don't believe natural selection entails naturalism. People like Richard Dawkins. Now, is he a naturalist? Yes or no? Richard Dawkins is a big atheist. Is he a naturalist? He believes nature is all there is. That's why for him, he believes God is removed from the process. And people believe that random mutations means there's no purpose. The Quran told us, we were created for the purposes of worshipping Him. It says that in the Quran. But random mutations, it means there's no process. God doesn't know what He's doing. This is a very common objection. Now let me tell you this, right? Think of a coin toss. Have you guys tossed a coin before? Yeah, all of you must have, right? Now, when you toss a coin, there are only two sides that it can land. Heads or tails. When you flip it, can you say with 100% certainty which side it's going to land on? No. But does God know? Yeah. Just like that, when random mutations occur, we cannot predict what's going to happen. We cannot predict it. But does God know? Yeah. So random mutations is also not a problem. But if you believe in naturalism, that nature is all there is, only then do you believe that there's no purpose. Yes, Sheikh Saab.
What you're saying then is that random mutation is not random.
It's not random. God is always orchestrating things. Otherwise, if you believe random mutations is random, really random, then tossing coins is shirk, because you believe that God doesn't know what He's doing, which is not something that's favorable, right? So those are very important findings. So the first thing is, can God do all of them? Yes, He can. We now move to the next one, okay? Now the next one is to do with scripture, Quran and Hadith. Now there are some important points when we usually use when we read the Quran and Hadith, right? And this is where I think Maulana Aslam and the courses that he does are very important, right? So the first thing is, what language is the Quran in? It's in Arabic. Can you try to understand the Quran without Arabic? It's difficult. It's very difficult. You have to, and it's not modern Arabic, not Ammiya, it's Fusha, it's classical Arabic. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, there are a couple of rules that you must take into consideration when you read the Quran. When you want to say that something is haram or halal, or something you can believe in or not, it must be founded in the Quran. Let me give you an example, right? Do Muslims believe in angels? Why? It's in the Quran. Do Muslims believe in jinn? Yes. Why? Do Muslims believe, as part of their creed, do Muslims believe in black holes? It's neither here nor there. So you could accept if you want to, but it's not an Islamic position. Islam has nothing to say about it. As Muslims, are you required to believe in electrons? No, right? So those things are very key principles that are important when reading scripture. Next slide. All right. So this is key. This is the key thing. Principle number 4 is what I want you to understand, right? There are some things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala affirms in the Quran, like for example, that there is going to be a day of judgment, that there are angels, that there are demons. We believe in those things. There are also things that Allah negates in the Quran. So for example, do we as Muslims believe that Jesus died when in that event? Did Jesus die? No. He negates that. He negates that ever happened, right? And there are some things that Allah has spoken nothing about. He has spoken nothing about. Did Allah ever speak about the periodic table? Did Allah speak about quantum mechanics? No. Do we have any response to this? No, it's not an Islamic issue anymore. Khalas, bye-bye. Right? That's the most important thing. And rule number 5, I want you to pay attention. If there are multiple opinions, if there are multiple options on the table, all of them are valid, do not stress one over the other, because one of them could be right, one of them could be wrong, you don't know. Right? One of them could be right, one of them could be wrong, we don't know. So if for one verse, you have like 5 different readings, all of them are valid, are you allowed to say this is the only meaning? No. Right? So show humility. Show humility. Right. Keeping those general principles in mind, next slide. Right? We as Muslims are committed to the following principles. 1, we believe that Adam is a real person. Can we believe Adam is a metaphor? Can we believe Adam is just, just a story? He was made up in a story. No. Do we believe Eve is a real person? Yes. Do we believe that they were created miraculously? Yes. Do we believe that we all have a lineage that goes back to them? Yes. Next slide. However, what am I not committed to as a Muslim? I am not committed to when he existed. The Quran neither makes it apparent, nor does it even indicate when he existed. We have no clue. 0 clue whatsoever. Right? Number 2, does the Quran say what coexisted around him? Does it say anything? No. Were there other hominins? We don't know. No idea. Does the Quran say anything? Yes. Okay, keep put your hand out. Does the Quran say, if interbreeding took place? Does it talk about that at all? No. Right. Given what you have covered here, let's now evaluate those 4 things. Next slide. Is creationism compatible with the Quran? Yes or no? Is it compatible? Yes, it is. You can be a creationist, Adi, no problem. Okay? You can be a creationist, no problem. Can you be a human exceptionalist as a Muslim? Yes, you can. No problem. Can you be an Adamic exceptionalist? Yeah, no problem. You can believe that Adam and Eve were created miraculously. We have a lineage with them. Whatever took place, if there was interbreeding with other hominins, no issue whatsoever. Right? So that's possible. Are you allowed to believe the last position that Adam and Eve had a mother and father? No. That is a red line. That is a red line. And that red line, the hukum for that, I'll leave it to Sheikh Asim, but that is something we cannot cross because it has certain things that it entails, which means even potentially you being put outside the fold of Islam, right? Because there are some very clear verses that talk about those. And if you read them otherwise, it becomes very difficult to maintain you as a Sunni, at least as a Sunni Muslim, right? So now, putting it all together, next slide, right? This is the summary of Islam and evolution. That from our perspective, we believe God can do any of those 4. From God's power, any of those are possible. So is evolution equal to atheism? Yes or no? No. And anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about, right? That's what they don't know. From the scriptural side, which options can we believe in? Can we believe creationism? Yeah, you can be a creationist if you want to, right? Can you be a human exceptionist? Yeah, you can be that. Can you be an Adamic exceptionist? You can be that. Can you be a no exceptionist? No. And the reason why we say no is because we believe that scripture sometimes gives us very definitive things which we should not read otherwise. Does that make sense? Now, in the beginning of this class, how many of you believe that evolution was difficult? Put your hands up if you thought it was a difficult or it was a sensitive area. Now put your hands up. Do you think that's easy? It's easy. Was that a big deal for Muslims? No. And so one of the areas that I'm trying to hopefully improve on is that we as Muslims should not be reactionary. A lot of the times, particularly on YouTube, you guys see a lot of these YouTube da'wah guys and all of that, right? Unfortunately, that becomes the reference point for a lot of our conversations. And I believe that we should have another academic pursuit that feeds into that but also improves on that. And so what I wanted to do today was just give you an exercise that, one, to show you that your theology, your tradition is very rich, it's very strong, very, very strong. And so that's why coming to madrasas is incredibly important. I didn't have madrasas. I was born as a very cultural Muslim. Didn't even know Arabic until I was, I didn't know Arabic. 21, I didn't know what Bismillah meant, and I was 21 at the time. I'm 34 now. I didn't even know what Arabic was properly then. So I'm trying to show you that you can be very confident as a young Muslim, be it in science or not, and you can engage with contemporary questions with confidence. And you should not lose that confidence in light of what people are telling you about Islam. So I hope that encourages you to pick up the classes that Karima Foundation is doing. And I'll leave it at that, and I'll take your questions. Thank you for listening to me, guys. Thank you. Sorry? Oh, it's fine? Okay, thank you. So 1,000 pounds, yeah, my account, yes. Astaghfirullah. Alhamdulillah. All right. Any questions, guys? Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's, I mean, there's So this is a good question. This is a very good question. So there's one question that I'm currently exploring, right? This is one of them. In the Quran, so remember, we have some terminologies given to us in the Quran, and we have terminologies that are given to us in science, right? So in the Quran, we are referred to as Bani Adam, we're referred to as Insan, we're referred to as Bashar. So that's what the Quran tells us. Now in biology, we have Homo sapien, we have Neanderthals, we have Denisovans. When does Insan start? When does it stop? How do you stitch the theological terms with the scientific ones is a question I'm exploring. And I don't know the answer to that yet. I don't know. Yeah, but you have to remember that these entities were not just animals. Neanderthals buried the dead. They had language. They could speak. Yeah, you could not do those things if you didn't have intellect. Sorry? I don't know. I don't know. So this is a good question about status, right? So I mean, I'm still thinking about status, right? Definitely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Adam alayhi salam izzah through a miraculous creation of his, right? That's definitely for sure. And he was a miracle, and he had some kind of knowledge. But what other entities that could exist at the time had, I do not know. It's an open question. I don't know. Genetics. Yeah, you can. So believe you me, I was super skeptical. I did not believe it at all. Yeah, no, I yeah. Which part? The Adamic part? The Adamic part, I feel, is still being discussed. I feel that part is still being discussed. And I think part is because I think the discourse is now at a new level. It has finer, granular resolution. And I think that's why new ideas sometimes take time, like tea, coffee, even the microphone was considered haram at one point, right? But I do believe that once people remove the misconceptions, for example, I'm not going to say who, but one very famous scholar said, oh, evolution is just a theory. What they have done is just confuse the colloquial term theory for what theory means in science. In science, theory means it's the highest level that you can achieve. Theory in normal terms just means a guess. So I believe those are some problems that are on the way. But yeah, definitely it's a live option. Yes, there's some others there at the back. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I'd say a safer position for Muslims to hold is human exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Especially with the idea that Adam alayhi salam being a uniquely honored species.
Yeah.
I think that's a safer position.
Yeah.
And we communicate about this before. And I think that there's going to be a lot of unraveling that dialogue will do over time. But at this moment in time,
sure. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
My question is similar to this. I was just going to ask, you know, when you say that there's people in Asia that have DNA different species in Europe, so similar to that, how do we know that there were different species and not just humans?
So that's what I was saying to him, that when we use the word insan bashar, how do we correlate it to the biological terms? So in biology, we say we're Homo sapiens, right? That's what we are. But there are other entities like Neanderthals, which we've carved out with a new category. These are Neanderthals. So they were very strong, they're very stocky, they're very short, but they were physically very able, and they were smart. So I think because of cancel culture, I'm not going to make those kinds of generalizations. But yeah. So I think this is even a recognized debate even amongst evolutionary biologists, right? So when we use species in this context, species has a broader meaning and a more narrow meaning, right? In this context, they're all part of the category of hominins. That's what I referred to as, I don't know if you were here, but there was a red box, hominins, right? These hominins are close enough such that they could interbreed. Now, when we say this particular lineage is Neanderthals, this particular lineage, it's based on genetic characterizations, right? So we have 3.5 billion data points. Let's just call them that, right? 3.5 billion data points. And when we compare these genetic similarities with others, we begin to see some differences that does have physical differences, the bone density, the height, those kinds of things. And using those correlations, they kind of mark them out as to what is Neanderthal, what is that. But it definitely is a question. How do you non-arbitrarily carve out human from non-human? That is a question. I wouldn't know how to answer that. Yes? Malik, salam.
There's a verse in the Quran, Surah Baqarah, I forget which verse it is, but it's quite a famous verse. I'll try and recite it as best I can. قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. So Allah says that I'm going to create mankind, and then the angels responded, what? You're going to create someone that's going to shed blood and cause fasad.
Yeah.
And this is before Adam and Salam was created. So
This-
that implies that somehow the angels had some experience of knowing that there was some creation of Allah's which shed blood and created fasad.
So yeah, so just to repeat what the brother here is saying, there's a verse in Surah Al-Baqarah where once he created Adam alayhi salam, the angels responded with a bit of a surprise, and they looked at it like, "Are you creating something that's going to cause mischief and bloodshed, right, on earth?" And so this particular ayah, interesting. So there are at least 3 opinions that I can tell you. None of them are definitive. All of them are possible, in my opinion, right? One of them is that this was in response to the experience they had with jinn. That there were jinn on the earth, they were causing fasad, and now there's another creation coming on board, and they might follow a similar pattern. That's one. Another interpretation says that they just asked just out of curiosity. That's another one. A third one, interestingly, this was written by a creationist, somebody who didn't believe in evolution, but they entertained this possibility. This is Muhammad Nabiuddin Nadvi from Bangalore, India, right? So he said that it is possible to look at this verse from an evolutionary standpoint, in the sense that there could have been other human-like entities through which the angels were inferring from the after Adam as salam was brought forth to them. Okay, maybe this is something similar that could be causing the same problems. Yeah, yeah. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that there are other options on the table. Sure. Any questions from the sister? I've taken a few. Any questions from you guys? No? Okay, I'll go over. Yeah. Oh, sorry. There's one in the back. I skipped you. Sorry. I'm not canceling you. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You know the Adamic exceptionalism theory?
Yeah.
Is there, like within science, is there any possibility of people assuming that there can be people on the earth right now who are especially from not Adam alayhi salam, but from the other species or whatever? And if not, is it like, do we have an idea of where it stopped?
Okay, so let me ask you a question. I'll respond with a question. Is Adam alayhi salam a scientific proposition or a religious proposition? Okay, so can we scientifically find a person called Adam? So imagine it just yeah, no, that's good. It's okay. So imagine the Quran was sent to us, but there was no mention of Adam. Would you have any commitment to Adam alayhi salam, to believing in an individual called Adam, if the Quran never mentioned it? Yeah, so we believe in because of revelation. In the absence of revelation, we would have no belief about Adam whatsoever. Adam is strictly a religious proposition. It's a religious belief, right? From a scientific angle, individuals in the past we don't have anything to say about them. Science cannot prove there was an individual in the past called Adam. We do not have any of Adam's biological data. We do not know when he existed. Nothing. How could science prove or disprove Adam alayhi salam in any capacity? Does that help a little bit?
My question is, like, in terms of us as a species.
But so when you say us, where do you carve out the us? Homo sapiens, yeah. So why Homo sapiens? Why do you feel that's the most intuitive answer? So okay. So I can tell you that even in the evolutionary biology community, people who study human evolution, so you can even specialize, you have takhsis in this area, right? That there's a debate about exactly where humans are. What exactly do you classify in the brawl? That's why in Adamic exceptionalism, all those possibilities could coexist. If you dislike the idea of interbreeding, which many people do, the first intuition, astaghfirullah, right? That's the first intuition. That's why you could potentially push Adam back such that all of these are Bani Adam. That's possible. Do you see my point? I do not deny that. You could believe in that if you wanted to. But I do not know yet what you can do to correlate the biological categories with the theological ones. This is something that myself and a few others are still kind of working things out. I don't know is the answer. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Same similar question. The break in the Homo sapiens. Like sometimes every now and then BBC or whatever, some pop science article will say, oh, we're all from Africa and we have descendants and Adam and Eve have been found. Here's what they might look like according to AI and whatever. How is that an immensely speculative enterprise that's going on? Firstly, that's the question.
What exactly is the speculative enterprise?
Whatever, we know where
No. So it will depend on a case by case. So for example, we've generally been taught that there was this out of Africa enterprise, right? And we believe that there was only one out of Africa. People now are exploring multiple scenarios where there were many out of Africa scenarios. So
still Africa.
yeah. So just recently, I think there was a paper that got published which talked about that there could have been origins elsewhere, not necessarily Africa. And so that is something that's brand new, that's just been brought to the table. But this is speculative. But they usually provide circumstantial evidence to kind of support their case. And this is not to say this is how it happened. This is how it could have happened based on the data. And as we get further and more refined, for example, look, keep one thing in mind, right? Before the 1970s, none of us could have predicted genetics, right? Or sorry, the 1930s, none of us could have predicted the amazing precision of genetics. There could be something else in the future that might give us a completely new dimension, that might give us further resolution. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it could be. But I'm not going to close that door. But I'm saying that all these scientists, yes, what they're doing is they're using current data, they're using inferential data as best as they can to infer the past. That's what science does when it comes to historical sciences. So there's a lot of this that is speculative, but there's also some of it that's quite substantial.
And also, let's just say we believe in this idea of hominid. There's still something very different and unique happened with the advent of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Even the Quran will affirm the Asma, is the two sons and then one of them gets taught how to bury.
Yeah.
There's some big shift in culture, sociologically, anthropologically, that happens with the advent of this Adamic species, right? So we affirm that from the Quran, and there seems to be a lot of correlation with, I don't know what the date is exactly, maybe 40,000 or whatever it is, so many thousands of years ago, suddenly human beings started doing things, or the human, whatever.
Right. So interestingly, Homo sapiens existed 200,000 years ago. Civilization only started about 10, 20,000 years ago. How can you non-arbitrarily say, that's Adam? So as just being purely academic, I want to know when we are putting our presumptions in without questioning them. And I don't know. I don't know how to answer that yet. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you
Sorry, did anyone of the sisters want to ask a question? MashaAllah, they love the lecture, so I'm getting grilled by the brothers. Yeah, go ahead. Right.
How do you fit in the fact that, for example, Nuh alayhi salam is mentioned to be 950 years old, or 1,000 minus 50 exactly, and evolution then? How would we try to rationalize the two?
Right. Okay. So evolution, when it pushes things back, when it does these mappings of the tree of life, it does it through populations. So it's measuring populations, how they vary across time and space. It can never do it through individuals. So if there was an individual, even if it was created miraculously or lived long enough, it wouldn't affect the data. Just like, for example, right? Do you believe that Musa alayhi salam, his staff converted to a snake? You do. Does that mean every staff now is going to convert to a snake? No. Science believes that laws are regularities. If an exception occurred in the past, can science discover that? No. Yes, I'll give it to somebody else. Yeah.
So assuming that humans, or whatever we define as humans,
Yeah.
Neanderthals, red, would you say that what's the line? What we define as a human? Because if someone has, like, for instance, 51% Neanderthal DNA and 49% human DNA, would they be a human?
I don't know the answers to that question. I really don't know. I'm still really thinking hard about this. And this is something that the brother there at the back has picked up. I think it was you who's picked up that question as well. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm still kind of racking my head because we generally believe that we have fixed categories, right? And we impose these fixed categories when we come up with a classification onto the world. But when you do science, particularly when you do modern science, we realize that the world is fuzzy. It doesn't always fit into neat categories, right? And one of the problems with evolution is because now you've introduced a time element to it, in which things are gradually changing over time. I would like to see a way of demarcating, exactly like you. I mean, for me, it's a curious question when he existed. My friend over there wants to know how he existed, but I'm more curious in when he existed, right? I just want to know when. But how do you non-arbitrarily, without just, say, happen to, this is when Adam. How do you non-arbitrarily do that? I'm still kind of working it out. There are some people who've tried to do that. Some people will say, okay, we know that there are certain markers of intelligence, right? That they can speak, they know how to have social communication. So there's a big Christian apologist. I wouldn't take him as a benchmark for Islam and evolution, but I'm just telling you just as an idea. So he's a Christian apologist, right? He's a Christian philosopher, well known across the world. He has this idea that all the markers of intelligence listed by a particular scientific paper, it marks 12 characteristics. He takes those 12 characteristics and pushes Adam back 750,000 years ago. So maybe somewhere around here, around this area here, right? And he does that because he dislikes the idea of interbreeding. He doesn't want interbreeding. So for people who do that, they just push Adam back as far back as you need to. Whether that's a viable exercise, I don't know. I'm still evaluating. For me, what I wanted to just know in this case was, what are the limits of acceptability? That's what I wanted to know. Because as a concern, so I'm a father, so I have a 6-year-old son. As a father, as a Muslim, as somebody who is dealing with scientific students in science, Muslim students in science, they're having these questions, and I wanted to know at least how does this question work? And what are our limits? That's all I wanted to know. Now, what are the finer questions that come out of it? These are now where I think other people need to follow up on. So so that's where I'll leave it. I have more things to say, but does that kind of help a little bit? Yep. I asked the sisters. Oh, finally, yes, yeah, good, okay. I said they could be humans. I didn't say they are humans. Yep. Anything? There was another hand that was right at the back. No. Any? Yes, mashallah, the brothers. Okay, yeah, you at the back.
Just on the Neanderthal DNA part, that doesn't confirm that it definitely was interbreeding, because just human DNA just could have overlapped with other elements.
Yeah.
And the second question, could get Mola's advice as well on this, because there are references from the Quran, I think, of humans evolving into apes or pigs.
The maskh. Right. So with regards to the first point, it really does depend on how wide or narrow you want to define human beings. The key question is, however wide or narrow, could there be something outside of that set, that category, that could be inserted in the Adamic lineage? That is fundamentally the theological question. Regardless of where you put Adam, that is fundamentally where the exercise is. So that's what I've tried to highlight here. Number two, the incident that you're referring to is known as the maskh, where Allah transmorphosed certain communities from the Christians and the Yahud into pigs and monkeys, right? That's what that event is. So we have one individual who, mashallah, he specializes in hadith. So he looked into this. He looked into the maskh, right? And basically, this seems to be an isolated event that I don't think has any connections with evolution. This was based on a punishment because they transgressed certain laws that Allah imposed on them, and because of that, they punished them. Now, I have seen, for example, there was one Turkish scholar I came across. He used this to show that Quran does not support evolution; it supports de-evolution. It goes the other way, right? So, yeah, but I just treat it as an isolated incident. I don't try to connect with evolution. Yes? I would agree with you, that's a miracle. I personally take it as a miracle. I would take that as a miracle. Yeah. Any other questions? No. Any questions here? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So I think scripturally, there are some clear indications of what a human is, right? They have the ability. So first of all, lineage follows from Adam. That's crystal clear for me, at least, right? That they have a spiritual element in them, a ruh. They have the ability to speak. Ilm al-bayan also, alam al-bayan also means the ability to distinguish. They have the ability to distinguish between them. Good and bad, right and wrong, left and right, they have that ability. Those are clear markers for me. Outside of that, like what is their, exact physical, that part doesn't seem to be there. We have some lexical, impressions here and there, based on if you go Lisan al-Arab, the classical Arabics in terms of how to define certain words. But I wouldn't take them so seriously to entail scientific understanding. But those would, I would say, at least the primary benchmarks that I would see.
So, based on that, then, if a Neanderthal, so if Ivan Islam was the furthest right in your graph, then the Neanderthal wouldn't be human. Because
They wouldn't be insan.
It wouldn't be Quranically human.
Yeah, they wouldn't be. So this is what I'm saying. They wouldn't be insan as understood in the Quran. They wouldn't be that. No. But the fundamental question is, which biological category matches with insan and bashar? So if you say, oh yeah, Neanderthals are also part of insan and bashar, so then you push it back left, which some people do. Some people prefer that. Okay, khalas. Yeah.
We worked here today on the premise that evolution is factual, that all the premises, the pillars that you presented at the beginning are truth.
Yeah.
How would you, maybe, okay, just Darwin's advocate here.
Yeah.
Like, what is, there are a lot of attempts to poke holes in the evolution narrative.
Yeah.
Fossil records, why don't we see half monkey, half human looking around? Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. I don't know if you wanted to sort of...
Right, okay.
That's been a standard response.
Yeah. So Maulana Asim asked a good question, right? So the theory of evolution, of course, has certain holes in them, right? And we've kind of assumed that evolution is true for the sake of this presentation. Can you provide some comments on that? So there are two things to say about this. Is evolution like 100% solid, as if there's no like scientific rooms to work in? No. The science is, a historical endeavor in the sense that it's constantly growing. Otherwise, if you want science to come in complete packages, science would have been done by Aristotle completely 2,500 years ago, right? But that's not how science works. Science works in accumulation, right? There are things, as we grow to know more things, more questions pop out. That's how we come to know, right? So now, given that, evolution, of course, there's some things that are very robust. For example, the age of the earth, that's like very, very sure. In terms of, the tree of life that I showed you, the model, right? You can devise a tree of life in multiple ways, right? So some people say, hang on, the dinosaur should be here, the Neanderthal should be here, monkey should be here. There are some kind of, within margins of error, there are rooms to change. And that happens all the time as we get granular with the data. That happens all the time. And those margins of error are understood by the scientific community. What happens is that now, because of the whole religion versus science problem, each side sometimes gets very rigid in the sense that they'll say, oh, the science is absolutely true, in trying to imply that there's no way to question it. But that is a reactive mechanism against people who are very critical of evolution, because they pounce on every single hole or misunderstanding. Is, aha, you cheaters, right? So that's where the debate comes in. And so I think we have to understand that science is just like everything else. It's a human activity. Humans are doing it. And you're going to have politics in play. You're going to have social dynamics into play. So that's one thing to keep in mind about science. The other thing to keep in mind about science is, right, okay, when it comes to Islam, my project is just to understand what can we accept, what can we reject. And in order to do that, you only need to ask two questions. One, can God do it? Two, does it conflict with anything in Scripture? Those are the only two questions, right? Now, let me give you an example. All of you guys have heard of the multiverse? Yeah? Who here has never heard of the multiverse? Put your hand up if you've never heard of the multiverse. You've never heard of the multiverse? All right, okay, right. So the multiverse is this idea that in addition to our universe, which started with the Big Bang, there could be other parallel universes, right? So there could be many more. There could be millions of you in other universes, very similar to you. You could be the president of Pakistan in one of them, right? So several kinds of variations. Think of parallel universes. Okay? Now, let's now analyze this from a theological angle. One, can God create multiverses? Yes. Does the Quran affirm multiverses? Does it deny multiverses? Can you believe it? Khalas. End of story. Now here's the funny part. Here's the funny part. There is no evidence for multiverses yet. Completely hypothetical at this stage. But yet you were still able to understand it theologically. Completely. Without a single shred of evidence. So my problem is when we get too sucked into the science, we distract ourselves from the fundamental question. What am I as a Muslim allowed to believe? Those two questions set the benchmark. And that's why I take that approach. So I don't get too bogged with the science. If I need to go to the science, I'll speak to scientists. But otherwise, it's the theology that makes this that does the job for me. Does that make sense, everyone? Yeah. Any other questions? I just want to give these guys a chance. Yes? Ooh, good question. Are they part of another universe or our universe, right? So we do believe, hang on, did you do jinn sessions with them? Not as in try to scare them, but as in like, did you do a class with them, or will you have a class with them on jinn? So interestingly, jinn means something that's invisible. You guys are jinns for one another right now, right? So now jinn, right? So we also believe that humans are jinn. Some humans are jinn as well, right? But jinn in the broader category means these metaphysical entities. They don't have like a physical thing, and they do waswasa to us. Whether they are in an alternate dimension or whether they're in this dimension different to us, I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. Do you want to add to that? They do interact, but the question is, no. Within this universe, yes, but whether they're yeah. Okay, so he's opened it up. I did not want to open this up, right? So for those people, I think it was yourself, maybe yourself, I forgot, right? So please forgive me. So for those people who had issues with interbreeding, even in our tradition, we have opinions where human beings interbred with jinn. Not scriptural. Opinions by ulama. Yeah, historical reports who believe in that possibility in light of the Quran. Right? So yeah, I wouldn't know how to address it. But that's a good question. So there's one friend of mine who loves jinn. He's from Azhar, and I'll tell him to investigate this question. Right? Right. Any other questions? There's a hand up. Yes, at the back. Yeah. There's tons of reports on that. So if you want, I'll send those articles over. So these are scientific articles. I can send them over to Maulana Asim, and then he can pass them on to you, inshallah. All right. Yep. Any questions from this side? Yep.
I just wanted to make one minor clarification. If the brother in the slides, just go back to the slide you put right at the beginning about the similarities between the Bible and the Quran regarding Adam.
What? Go back, yeah. The Bible.
Something about the Bible, yeah. It's sort of implied that in the Bible, Adam and Eve.
Did you say in the Bible in here? I don't remember. Right. Okay.
Similar to the Bible, and then at point 4, that they asked for forgiveness and they were, like, it implies that they were given. But in fact, in the Bible, they weren't forgiven, and that's one of the reasons why women suffer from.
Yeah. Sure.
Very clearly that they were forgiven.
Yeah. That's a clear difference between yeah. Yep. Go for it. Yep. Any other questions? Somebody, did you want to? No? Who was it? I don't forget you. No chance. Yeah. No. This guy is going to cause mischief on earth. So right. Any other questions, guys? No? Okay. Now that inshallah you've discussed this, I have one thing to share with you, and so this is something that's big, that's going to happen very soon, inshallah. And I'm at liberty to share this with you, just to kind of encourage you and motivate you. So in universities, what happens is, you have very big publication outlets like Oxford University Press, Cambridge University Press, Palgrave, Rutledge, all those, right? And in these presses, we sometimes have very dedicated book series. Book series are those things where when a discipline reaches a level of maturity, there are now many scholars that are contributing to this area. You can publish a monograph, a book in this landscape. Alhamdulillah, for the first time in the history of academia, Palgrave Publishers will start a book series on Islam and science. And I will be the chief editor of this series. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this with all of you is because this is now for the first time that Islam is going to have a serious academic voice out there, right? And evolution is just, one conversation. There are multiple conversations that need to be developed and picked up. For example, what's the latest buzzword today when it comes to science? Who can tell me? What's the latest, biggest scientific development that's happening? AI, artificial intelligence, right? That's a big one. So Islam needs to have some kind of response about AI. What do we make of it? What do we understand it? Should we appropriate it? Should we not appropriate it? What does it mean for us? And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because there might be people here who go into university as theologians or scientists or philosophers who may want to contribute to this discussion. So keep this series at the back of your mind. This will be made public in a week's time from now. But I hope to see that somebody from High Wycombe who becomes, the next big sheikh, the next big alim, and he or she begins to develop this area's Islam and science. Thank you very much for listening to me, guys. I really wish you all the best. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair to Dr. Shoiab. I'll just make a couple of announcements. Inshallah, I think what we're going to do is we'll put Asr together to bring this to a close. I'll ask all the students, all the female students who are Foundation Ta'aleemiyya students, if you could go to Ustad Shaista to have your names ticked off on the register, and all the male students, you come to me after the prayer and get your names ticked off for the register, inshallah. Dr. Shoiab will be sticking around for a while, so if anybody has any questions, wants to speak to him privately, they can, inshallah. But I just want to once again thank him. Some of us will be seeing him again very soon. He's actually been invited to speak at the Royal Institution in London on Islam and evolution, and some of his students from High Wycombe will be attending. I hope he doesn't mind that too much.
No.
And so once again, I just want to thank him and just make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses him, his family, all of the work he's doing, keeps him steadfast, and allows his work to bring to fruition other people who follow in his footsteps, inshallah ta'ala. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.